Alrighty, it says 11 o'clock on my end, so I will kick things off. Welcome, everyone. I'm Nadia, and I'm joined by my co-host, Irene. We want to kick off today's call with a question of the day. But please, if you're just joining us, drop in the chat where you're joining from, your organization or state. And so our question of the day is focused on mental health because May is Mental Health Awareness Month. We were just talking before we kicked off the call about how, regardless of what your mental health status is, there's a lot of sad events happening in our country and across the world, which no doubt takes an impact on our mental health. So we would like to hear from our attendees if there is anything that's bringing you joy during this time. I was saying earlier too that when I ask this type of question, I really want to get some tips for myself as well. So I hope that you all will grab some tips from the chat. And I'm seeing some gardening, that being outdoors, being with plants tends to be common, yoga. I was sharing earlier that for me, it's being in community with people who can relate to what I'm going through and resting, especially in this world where there's hustle and bustle. I really love to rest. I see some crafts, painting, sitting by the ocean. Oh, I love that so much because the ocean is like medicine. Irene, do you want to share yours?
Yes, Nadia, and I love your shares and everybody's who are in the chat. But May is also Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. It brings me great joy to recognize the various contributions of AANHPI community members to the animal sector here on Maddie's Community Conversations. And this will be happening all month long. I'm so happy to be sharing space with them and of course with everyone on the call today.
Thank you for sharing, Irene. It is nice to see folks that are just like us being recognized for their contributions. So I can relate to that. I'm seeing others come through, making time with friends, swinging in the hammock. I went on vacation recently and I got to sleep in a hammock and it was the best experience. So I can relate to that. So keep them coming. I wonder if there's a way for us to collect all of these and maybe add them to the pet forum so other folks who are not here can also see the.
Yeah, that's typical of what we do every week.
Charlotte can definitely help with that as well.
Yeah. Great. So I'm going to hand it over to Kelly, who's going to go over some announcements.
Hey everyone, happy Monday. So I am excited because I get to announce some grant winners today. So let me share the screen. Irene or Nadia, can I get a thumbs up if y'all can see this? Awesome. All right, and let me put it in presentation mode. All right, so our weekly community conversation this month, we had one winner, so exciting, of $5,000. And that is Alicia Mata of Native in Vet Med. So congratulations, Alicia. And we had one winner for our Maddie's Pet Forum monthly giveaway of $3,000. And that was Sarah Post of Feline Rescue in St. Paul, Minnesota. And I've got one more that I'm announcing. This is exciting. The Maddie's Pet Forum team has a fun surprise and delight grant to one of our top contributors this quarter. And a winner of $500 is Rochelle Hamp of Headwaters Animal Shelter in Park Rapids, Minnesota. So congratulations. And if any of our winners are on the call and want to say hi real quick, feel free to unmute and introduce yourselves and say hi. No? Well, feel free to say hi in the chat if you'd like to. And otherwise, I will throw it back to Nadia and Irene.
Thank you, Kelly, and congratulations to all of the winners. So we are going to kick off today's panel. As Irene mentioned earlier, we are celebrating Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander Month. And to do that, we will have 3 panelists today. You're going to hear from a cat cafe owner, an animal behavior specialist, and a veterinarian who will be sharing about their work. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Irene, to introduce our panelists.
Thank you so much, Nadia. So yes, we are featuring 3 social entrepreneurs from the AANHPI community and celebrating their diverse paths in the animal sector. Christina Lee is the founder and principal of Stella Firma Strategies. She is a strategic advisor and problem solver, helping individuals and organizations reach their goals and aspirations. Before starting Stella Firma Strategies, Christina was in the animal welfare field for over 10 years as an applied animal behaviorist, leading behavior teams and working mostly with dog and cat victims of cruelty and neglect. Our next panelist, Christina Ha, is the co-founder of Meow Parlor, New York's first cat cafe and nonprofit. She's also the creator of Jackson Galaxy's Cat Camp, an educational symposium to help cat lovers become cat warriors. Dr. Lauren Park is a veterinarian and co-founder of Vets and Vans. She will be joining us a little later in the hour, so we'll introduce her then. But we do recognize that it is confusing to have 2 panelists named Christina, so we will be identifying you both by your first and last names. And our first question for you both is just please briefly tell us about yourselves and your connection to animal welfare. Christina Lee, if you wouldn't mind starting.
Sure. Hello, everybody, and thank you for having me. So I started as a dog trainer in New York City, and after working with many spoiled Upper East Side dogs and their spoiled clients, I wanted to apply my skills to help animals who were less fortunate. So I applied for a job at the ASPCA and started there as an animal behavior counselor in 2013. So over a span of 9+ years, I led 3 different behavior teams, and my most recent role at the A was director of behavior. And I left the organization in 2022 for a variety of reasons, biggest of which were burnout and mental health. And since then, I have worked part-time for smaller nonprofits, Flatbush Cats in Brooklyn, and the Book Thing, which is a non-animal related nonprofit here in Baltimore. I moved to Baltimore last fall, and I decided to start my own business in 2023.
Thank you, Christina Lee. Christina Ha, if you wouldn't mind sharing the same.
Sure.
background.
Hi, I'm Christina Ha. I'm actually a baker by trade. So I've been baking for my bakery, Macaron Parlor, since 2010. In 2013, my husband was coming home from work one day and found a cat. And I had never had cats before, although I had other pets, and I'm allergic to cats. So I was like, absolutely not. But I converted so fast, like so hard, and became like the world's biggest cat lady in the shortest period of time. I think I deserve a record or an award or something for that. And after that, I was like, well, I need more cats. And my husband was like, you can't have more cats. We did adopt another one, but he said, I can't have any more cats. And one of our employees at the time is from France, and they were opening their first cat cafe there. So she was like, France is about to open their first cat cafe. And I was like, how dare they? That's not acceptable. Like, New York needs to do this. Like, we need to get on this like right now. And basically, I started calling the Department of Health like that day to be like, how do we do this? How do we open a cat cafe? And I remember they were just like, you're absolutely nuts. But I kept persisting, and we did end up opening in 2014, December 2014. In 2017, I started Jackson Galaxy's Cat Camp, specifically because I noticed that there were people who were coming in and they had a lot of questions about cats. And I was like, surely there's someone out there who who's the better service for this or a place you could go to. And I realized there actually really wasn't. It was just like a lot of little bit of information across different sources. So I was like, well, maybe if I just went and did the research and found the experts and kind of put them and all of these people who are cat curious in the same room, we could see what kind of magic happens. And it's been incredible. And so in 2018, we started our own nonprofit, and I'm currently a full-time, like I foster a lot. I used to foster about 50 to 60 kittens per year, and I've actually scaled that back to focus more on seniors.
That's wonderful, Christine. I love to hear the transition from cat curious to actually becoming full knee deep into all things cats. And maybe we should have Dr. Lauren Park also introduce themselves. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Lauren Park. I'm one of the co-founders and veterinarians at Vets and Vans. I'm currently in the background. We go Alameda and Oakland.
I think we're getting a little bit of audio troubles. Would it be better?
Did you hear me?
Yes, maybe it might be better. You might have to turn off your cam for the moment. Not sure.
Okay. Is this better?
Yes.
Is that better? Okay. I was a shelter veterinarian prior to starting Vets and Vans with Dr. Tracy Huang. I finished my shelter medicine internship at San Diego Humane Society, and I finished that in 2016. Moved up to the Bay Area and worked at San Francisco SPCA and Muttville, and most recently at Oakland Animal Services. And when we were at Oakland Animal Services, we were able to see what the community needs were by tracking the types of owner surrenders that came through our shelter. And we found that 1 in 5 animals were surrendered because of inability to afford care, which included medical care. And what we would do is we would fix or treat the issues that the pets were surrendered for. So a lot of the times they were surgical, such as pyometras or limb amputations, and then return them back to the owners. But we realized that this wasn't very sustainable for the shelter because we had a lot of shelter pets to also take care of. And also we weren't able to provide accessible medicine before they entered the shelter. So what we decided to do is start our own nonprofit that is mobile vet services that travels to different communities in Bay Area that need accessible veterinary medicine. And so we launched in October of 2022. And since then, we've been able to provide over 6,000 pets with much needed veterinary services, such as urgent care, wellness, preventative, spay neuter, other life-saving surgeries, hospice care, dental care, and euthanasias. So that's kind of our story.
Thank you, Dr. Park. I have, in my current role, I get to work with shelters across the state of California, and I've been lucky to work with some of the shelters that you partner with, and I can just say what we hear from them, it's the impact is remarkable, so appreciate the work that you're doing. For this next question, so Christina Ha and Dr. Park, you have both touched a little bit on why you started your own organization, but we would like to hear if there's anything more that you want to share is what inspired you to take that step. Maybe we'll start with Christina Lee since you have not gotten into that yet, and then Christina Ha and Dr. Park, please jump in if you have more to share.
Sure. So once I left the A, I did a lot of soul searching, and I worked with a career coach, and they recommended that I speak to people for informational interviews just to kind of learn about what's out there and what people are doing. I spoke to about 45 people for informational interviews, and I applied to over 150 jobs. And I got rejected from pretty much all of them, except the ones I mentioned earlier. And these are animal welfare, but mostly non-animal welfare jobs. And as I was looking at these JDs, filling out all these applications, I realized that none of these jobs fully addressed what I really wanted from work. And after speaking to other business owners and consultants, after speaking to Jose Ocaño, who's also on this call, I think, I decided, why not start my own thing, really focus on what I'm good at and what energizes me and brings me joy, and none of the other political and bureaucratic nonsense that comes with working with organizations and big companies. And what's the worst that'll happen? If it doesn't work out, at least I tried it. So that was what inspired me.
Thank you. Christina Howard, Dr. Park, do you want to share anything else?
I can go. Obviously, when we started Meow Parlor, we did set up a business for it. But the inspiration for starting our own nonprofit actually came after we had been open for about 3 years. During that, when we originally opened, I actually had no animal welfare experience. I was just like one of those people who thought I knew everything because I had fostered like 2 cats. And it gave me this, like, I think not knowing what I was doing gave me this false sense of confidence. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. Like, I can extrapolate the data from the handful of cats that I've met and apply it to like an entire population. And the answer to that is absolutely not. All of them are individual. I've never had 2 cats that were the same, and we've seen like thousands of cats at this point. So because I had no experience whatsoever, like I've never volunteered, I had literally never been inside a shelter. I didn't even know that you could adopt pets. Like, I had no idea. I knew none of these things before we found Mr. Socks. And so essentially, like, when we opened, I was like, I'm going to partner with another rescue and they're going to handle all of that for me because I don't know. And I think it'll be better for someone who's an expert to do this. But I think over time, what I realized was that, like, not just me, but everyone on our team got really emotionally involved with the cats. Like, we spent a lot of time with them. We knew their quirks, we knew their personalities. Like, we really wanted to have more a role in terms of the adoption process. And we wanted to be able to, if we noticed something was off, we wanted to be able to like get the medical care faster without having to jump through hoops. And what was complicated about it was that I think it's hard for an organization that's been around for a long time to suddenly be like, yes, we will let this other group be our partner and do the things that we've been doing and take this role away from us. And so we tried for a little while to make that work. And eventually we were like, you know what, it probably makes the most sense for us to start our own nonprofit and to take full responsibility for the entire process the whole way through. So we started doing that. And then in our first 11 months of doing adoptions, we actually like increased our adoption number by over 200%. And to me, that was like a reflection of the fact that we were so emotionally attached to all of our cats that we were like, yes, we want all of them to get home. We want them to come here. We want to get to know them, and we want to get them home. And we want to do all the right things for them. What ended up happening was, in addition to doing more adoptions, I think that taking on that extra responsibility, like, you would think that our team would be like, oh no, now I have to do a new thing. They're actually like psyched. They were super happy. They wanted to do this. They wanted to be part of the adoption. They wanted to talk to all of the potential adopters. They wanted to, talk about like the history, go through behavior, talk about how to do proper introductions. They were so psyched. And so I think what ended up happening was that it became extremely emotionally fulfilling for everyone that's involved to be part of this, to be part of Happy Stories, to be part of like an entire community of former adopters. And it just like, it just started out of this whole thing of, originally, and I think that it's really important to realize that 11 years ago, I knew nothing about cats. I had no idea whatsoever. And like the cat that we ended up finding, like also had some behavior stuff going on. And to go from like that point to being like, well, he's my cat now, I'm going to figure this out, to now coaching other people through, you know, behavior stuff or medical things and all of that, I think is so, it's so weird to look back on and be like, wow, we did a thing. But every step was just kind of like oh, this is a new challenge and this is a new hurdle. What can we do to figure it out? And then I guess we just keep stumbling into things deeper and deeper, and it's working out for us.
I can go. Is my audio okay? I can go as well if it's not working.
Audio
Yeah.
sounds good with your
Okay.
camera on. Yeah, thank you.
I touched on it briefly in the intro, but I have a shelter medicine background, and Dr. Tracy Huang has a community medicine, community outreach background. And I think our biggest motivator for wanting to start this nonprofit vet clinic was that we can combine both our experiences in community medicine and shelter medicine to really be able to meet community members where they need to be met. And our goal was to keep families together, keep pets in their homes, and to really prevent shelter intake because we saw the large amount of intake that Oakland Animal Services can have. So our biggest motivator was just trying to keep families together, and by providing the veterinary care that the pets needed. And if you talk to a lot of our clients who need a lot of who some need assistance for, they love their pets and they want to keep their pets, but they just didn't have any other option or any other place to go. So we have a lot of clients who, for example, like their dog got out and got hit by a car and we're not there till the next week, then they'll wait that whole week for us to see us, for them to see us, because that's the only option they have. And so it's nice to be a resource, but it's also, it shows us that there's a much greater need in the community. And so we wanted to start this to be able to meet the community members where they wanted to be met, but also to show other veterinarians that it's, we can make a sustainable business out of it, where you can do things that are fulfilling for yourself and for your career, but also help the families that need to be helped, but also be able to sustain yourself in your career financially. So I think in that sense, we wanted to see if it was possible to make it sustainable. And now that we see that it's sustainable, kind of inspire or show other vets that it's possible to.
I think we're still getting some audio problems, Dr. Park.
Yes, I did hear about the most of it, and then also the last part about sustainability and showing other veterinarians that it's possible to. I might go a little bit out of order on how we had presented some of these questions, but Dr. Park, since you did bring up the sustainability question, I did want to ask, since in the context of human health and services, there is an entire infrastructure supported by the government. In a recent article in The Atlantic, it pointed out that Medicare has the ability to help regulate medical costs. Could you foresee government-assisted veterinary care as a consistent program in the future? And then also noting that Maddie's Fund and California for All Animals are proud supporters. How does Vets and Vans approach the funding for your important work?
That's a great question. It's hard to say if there will be government subsidized care for pets. I think the trajectory of kind of how vet medicine is going is, I see there being a bigger and larger gap in access to care. I think there's more and more specialized care that's happening, which is great, but also there's a lot of corporate buyout of vet clinics currently. So it would be great if there was some sort of assistance for pet owners, but I feel like at this moment, I just see a larger gap happening, which is why we wanted to be able to narrow that gap in access to care. For us, we are fee for service, so we don't give away our services for free. There's a cost to our services, but it's much lower than the average general practice in our area. We don't turn away clients for inability to pay. So if a client expresses financial barriers to our services, and we tap into grants that we've applied for. So Maddie's fund has been a generous donor. Cal for All Animals has been generous donors. Gray Muzzle, we try to be able to expand our grant base so that we're able to tap into those funds so that we can still provide care.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Park. Nadia, did you want to ask the next question?
Yeah, so this next question is for Christina Lee. You know, it's no secret the majority of behavior specialists in animal welfare are white folks. And so I would like to hear from you what inspired you to pursue a career in a field that is so white dominated, and what would you tell people or women of color who want to start a similar career pathway?
Well, one inspiration was my sister, who is 4 years older than I am, and she was a huge fan of dogs when we were little. She memorized dog breeds. She would borrow dog encyclopedias from the library, and I was probably too like stubborn to admit this, but I didn't realize it until the last few years that this is actually probably quite a big influence on me and what I was interested in when I was younger. And in high school, I did an internship at a vet's office, and I really enjoyed working hands-on with the animals. And at the time, my only exposure to careers involving animals was veterinarians. I had no idea that there were private trainers, behavior professionals in shelters, zoos, or other settings. So I decided in college that I was going to be pre-vet. And while there, I volunteered at couple places, another vet's office. I was exposed to the deaf community and started learning sign language. And I decided that I wanted to train service dogs. So dogs specifically trained to work with people with disabilities. And I graduated with a degree in biology. I took all the dreaded pre-vet courses and my grades were not great. So I decided to go to a master's program. And in that program, when I was taking the animal behavior course, I met a very seasoned dog trainer, and she asked me, hey, why do you want to go to vet school? And I said, with confidence, I was like, I want to train service dogs. And she was like, well, you know, you're not going to learn much about behavior in vet school. And my mind was blown, and I was like, no, I didn't know that. What do you mean? Like, tell me more. Like, thank you very much. And so at that time, she really helped me because she kind of put me on a better path, I guess, to where I wanted to go. And she allowed me to shadow her private training sessions. I learned a lot from her. And after I completed my master's degree, I took another grad program in applied behavior analysis. And I started training my own dogs, seeing private clients. All that to say, if anyone is considering going into this field of behavior, one, I highly encourage it. It's such a needed field, especially in animal welfare. There is a dearth of really knowledgeable behavior specialists and behavior professionals in the field, and it's really tricky because there are lots of dog trainers in the world, but not a lot of people want to work in shelters where, one, it's mentally very, very difficult, and two, they pay you close to nothing unless you work for like one of like the big three animal welfare organizations in the world. But even so, they don't pay you enough. So definitely encourage it. And BIPOC, very rare in the field. I've probably met a handful of other behavior BIPOC folks in the field myself. And two, I'd say talk to as many behavior professionals as you can. Talk to me, and I can put you in touch with other BIPOC behavior professionals. Learn as much as you can about what it really looks like to be in behavior and what your options are. There are so many options and behavior professions out there. And I think as an Asian American especially, we aren't exposed to all those options. So I would just say talk to as many people as you can.
Thank you, Christina. And also just acknowledging Shawnee's comment in the chat. Shawnee is also a fantastic behavior specialist. So I just want to give her a little shout out. But Irene, do you want to take the next question?
Yes, and for Christina Ha, you're also getting a lot of chatter about cat allergies. I myself am I'm also allergic to cats, so I'm going to look to you as my inspiration to try and overcome some of my adversity or not wanting to be around too many cats. But I think your story is inspirational just because of the path of where you came from of being a baker. And I wanted to know about the significance of the location of Meow Parlor.
Sure. I think at the time that we opened Meow Parlor, we didn't really think too much about the significance of that location. A lot of it was we just sort of stumbled upon this location. I think what originally happened was we started talking to like different landlords and looking at different places, and basically everyone that we spoke to was like, absolutely not. Like, your idea is crazy. This doesn't exist. How can you prove that this will work? And we look like bad tenants. You know, we had a bank account with $100 in it, and we were just showing up and being like, no, we trust us. Like, we can do stuff. We know what we're doing. And I live in Chinatown, and I was walking around in our neighborhood, and I saw a for rent sign on Hester Street, which actually was down the street from the Hester Street Fair. And we actually started Macaron Parlor out of the Hester Street Fair in 2010. So we had a 6-foot table, and we built an entire bakery off of that location and that concept. And so, you know, I was just where I was standing, I could see the Hester Street Fair, and I was like, well, I'm gonna call and see what happens. And the person who owned the building, when I met with them, they were like, oh yeah, we foster dogs. You know, we foster dogs, and our cat just showed up in our backyard one day, and it took us 6 months to convince the cat to be an inside cat. And so we get it. And I was like, you don't think it's weird? And they're like, no, we actually really want you to move in, and we want you to have an impact on the community, and we want you to do all of the things that you want to do. And it was such a shocking moment for us to be like, wow, someone believed us. Like, I didn't have to do a PowerPoint presentation that was like, you know, like, fixed cats don't yell in the same way that unfixed cats do. Like, they smell different, like all of these things. I didn't have to do any of the things that I had to do with any other landlord that I spoke to. And so that part was really just super incredible for us. And one of the reasons why we were even bothering to look in that neighborhood was because we were like, if you build it, people will come. You know, there's no point in us being like, yes, we have to be in Times Square to be where the tourists are. It was like, cat people will find us. Cat people will, I was like, also, a lot of us are introverts. We don't want to be in Times Square anyway. So let's be on this like other area that's like off on the edge of Manhattan, and our people will show up. And we were right about that. You know, it's a couple of blocks away from where I live, so it's close to get to, and my business partner, it's close for her too. Like, we can walk there. And then we opened up there, and you know, our zip code is actually primarily Asian and Hispanic, so the community around us is you know, it's a very unique part of New York. I like it because I think it's one of the parts of New York that still hasn't been touched by corporate forces. Like, all of the buildings and the storefronts are too small for a big corporation to show up. So it's a neighborhood that has a lot of personality. It's so interesting to be there. And like over the past 10 years, neighborhood keeps changing. Right now, there's like, it's turned into this fashion mecca which I love because there's a bunch of small brands that are popping up. And so we opened up here, and my husband used to live a couple blocks away. Like, he was born and raised a couple blocks away from where Meow Parlor is now. And he's Fujianese. And so primarily the people in that neighborhood are also Fujianese. And so what ended up happening is that as we got deeper and deeper into like understanding cats and knowing what the type of care that they need, and also the limits in terms of the access to care, he just started walking into like stores and talking to people and being like, hey, I notice you have a cat here. Can we talk about it? And I think what was interesting about it was his approach, because he would just be like, I was born here, I'm from this neighborhood. He would talk to them in Cantonese. He would say, I grew up like 3 blocks away from here. And he's like, I really love cats, I want to help you. And he's like, tell me about your cat and what's going on here. And so what we were finding essentially was that regardless of the origin of the cat, people love their cats. A lot of them, because of lots of different barriers in their lives, they may not have understood the value or importance of that care. They might not have been able to afford it, or because of a language barrier, even if they tried to get that care, they still didn't understand what was happening. So, what we were doing was that he started just asking these small things. Can I microchip your cat? Can I get a collar for your cat? Can we vaccinate your cat? And doing these small asks and working his way up to being like, can I fix your cat? And so we were very slowly just starting to like fix all of these shop cats in our neighborhood, which turned into people being like, well, I have a friend who has, a cat, and all of this stuff. And, it's not a service we can provide, obviously, to the greater community, but I think it's really, really interesting and sort of important for us that if we're going to be part of this community, that we have to really be part of it. Like, we have to really be present, and we have to really serve the people that are around us. Like, in some ways, I think what was challenging when we first moved into this neighborhood was, despite the fact that cat cafes originated in Asia, most cat cafe owners don't look like me. And so therefore, when we first moved in, a lot of people originally didn't think that I was going to be Asian, or that my husband was going to be from the neighborhood. So we did have a lot of resistance at first. But over time, what it's come into is more of a relationship with being like, hey, we are here, and we're not here to displace anyone or to do any of these things that, make people feel like they no longer, like, they have aliens amongst them. So it was like, how can we help you? How can we engage in this community? How can we be part of this? And it's just this thing that, like, it only really works because my husband is so charming. So he just shows up and he's like, hi, I'm a really nice guy. And it's been so interesting to have these like little opportunities to make really, really large impacts on individual people who couldn't have done it in any other way, shape, or form. I think one of my favorite stories was there was like a e-bike fire like 2 blocks away from where I live last year, and it was horrible. And like the fumes from it are insane, and like, people passed because it was such a bad fire. And my husband was just going home, and he saw these people like with a cat in a crate, and he was like, hey, who are you? Like, what is this cat? Like, what's going on here? And he convinced them to give us this cat because she couldn't move at all. And she was just covered in soot, and she was covered in water because of them trying to put out the fire. And he was like, can you just trust us? Like, just trust us. And 3 weeks later, we returned her back to them, like, and she was 100%. Like, she was back to 100%, and then we waited a couple more weeks and went back and we spayed her. But we were able to do all of these things because of the support of people in the community, and the feeling that we have that, like, if we're going to be here, we need to do something, and we need to help these people, and we need to have an impact and do something incredible for these people. And it was like, they paid us in sandwiches, like, and we were like, great, like, everyone else involved, like sandwich for you, sandwich for everyone. So I was like, how incredible is it that we were able to do this thing and provide what essentially, it wasn't actually $10,000 in care, but like value wise, it was about $10,000 in care. And just to be able to do it for people who couldn't have afforded it, just to help their animal, and to be like, we're here to do something and to help you and to be part of this community. So that part of it, even if our original intent wasn't to like do all of these things, over time, I think I've come to realize the importance of just showing up. And if I'm going to put down a flag here, I was like, I want it to be very important for everyone to know that I'm here to help and not to displace and not to like push anyone away. I want to be here and do something that's helpful and productive, and like not just the singular focus of like, oh, we only do adoptions. So I was like, yes, we do primarily adoptions, but like if someone's like, there's a cat and it's a block away, like, of course, sure, let me figure out what we could do, and running in to do it. And that to me is also really emotionally fulfilling.
Oh my gosh, it gives me such joy to just hear you tell your story, because I can feel the passion that you have for this. And before we get to, I did want to promote your website and the merch, because I thought that the socks were just the cutest. And so for folks who can check out Meow Parlor's website, they really have some cute things, and can help support them that way as well, if you're not in the New York City area and Chinatown area. Did our panelists want to share anything else just about community or some of the topics brought up before we go into the Q&A from audience? So one of the questions for Christina Ha was curious as to where you get your cats for the cafe. Do you work with local rescues to pull your cats, or do you work with transport groups that bring cats to you from out of New York City?
We do both. Primarily, we try not to deal directly in terms of working with the public. I think our great fear in terms of having a cat cafe is having a lot of people just leave their animals in front of, just kind of dumping them in front of our store. That's fortunately only happened to us once in the past 10 years. But one of the things that was really compelling for me in terms of wanting to start our own nonprofit was that previously the organization that we were part of was not taking their cats from ACC, which is our local city shelter. And I thought that it was such a disservice to the city to not participate in that way, and to make a stance out there that was like, we have to support our community shelters. And so we signed up originally for them. And then something incredible happened, which was that they didn't have as many cats as we needed. So we started working also with transport groups. So and especially I think for us, we do have a huge number of adoptions at certain times of the year. So we supplement from other rescues, some from the South, a lot from ACC. ACC is my favorite source for neonatal kittens and seniors. And then we'll work with other like partners also in this area. So every now and then, like I'll apply for more places to be like, hey, I would like to see if we could work with you and get more cats, because essentially we are having this excellent problem where we are growing really fast. And so we actually need to onboard new partners all the time.
And I see you have a shout out from somebody who works at NYC ACC. So thanks for all that support, Christina. There was a question that came through for Dr. Park. And so this is in regards to how folks sign up for services. So the question is, do you have a form that folks fill out as to their financial assistance? So is there any application process, or maybe you can tell us how the services are administered?
For our purposes, we have them fill out an application just
I think we're still having audio issues.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, it's a
Is that better?
little choppy. Try one more time.
Is this better?
Yes.
Okay. So I was saying that for our purposes, we don't have any, we have an application just for data tracking, but not necessarily for income verification or need verification. And it depends on what other grant systems that we tap into and what their requirements are. I don't think any of the grants that we tap into have any income verification, but for example, the gray muzzle grant that we tap into, they need to be senior dogs. Or there's certain restrictions such as there's another grant that we tap into where the clients have to be seniors. So there's different restrictions on different grants, but we don't have any sort of income verification or financial need verification.
Thank you, Dr. Park. I just also, you touched on income verification, so I just want to highlight, again, working with shelters across the state of California, we have been working collaboratively to dismantle that income verification process. And the reason behind that is because those income verification processes, especially if they're linked to state requirements, they're not truly reflective of what's actually going on financially. So, for example, in California, it is becoming very common for a low-income household to earn six figures, so $100,000, $80,000. So that threshold of what's low income is actually increasing. And unfortunately, these income verification processes don't always capture that. So I appreciate you sharing that process that you all have.
Thank you, Nadia, for that added explanation. And we have a couple of more questions I think we have time for. Again, for Dr. Park, how many vans are involved in Vets and Vans? Will you expand within the area?
We currently have one surgery van where we perform surgeries, and then for medicine and urgent care, we set up tents. So the tents are essentially our exam rooms. And then for recovery, if it's summer, outside in tents, if in the winter it gets colder. And so for surgical recovery, it's better for them to be indoors. We borrow some spaces that we are set up in, but currently just the surgery van. Would love to expand because there's currently we're in Alameda, Oakland, and San Francisco, but there's a lot of different counties up in Marin and Palo Alto and San Mateo where they also would like us to come down there for accessible veterinary medicine. But we would have to expand with more staffing and more veterinarians to do that. But definitely would love to expand more in the future. Just need to be able to staff it for that.
Irene, do we have time for this last question? You think it's such a good question, or do you think it should be addressed in the pet forum?
Why don't we try and ask it now, and whatever we can, Charlotte Artero, our new Maddie's Pet Forum manager, can help manage the questions as well.
Great. So this question says, several of the speakers left larger organizations to do something that speaks more directly to your career desires. How could these organizations or any organizations more broadly, I cannot see the rest of the question, more broadly, if you don't want to call out something in particular, so what could they have done or how could they have behaved differently to hold on to you or to better cultivate talent and support their staff? And this is speaking specifically to BIPOC staff support. So Christina Lee, I don't want to put you on the spot, but you did touch on this, so I'm not sure if you want to go.
Yeah, this is a loaded one. I think there's a lot, and obviously I can only speak from my own experience, but I do want to shout out that I've been working with the BIPOC and Animal Wellbeing Collective, which is a collective of BIPOC people, which is redundant, who work in animal well-being. And it's growing, and it's going to be something that you're going to hear more about and see more about. So please keep an eye out for that, because our hope is that we will also be able to spread resources and awareness about this issue. But just speaking from my personal experience, I don't know if this is specific to BIPOC. I think it's a cultural thing or a cultural aspect of a lot of animal welfare organizations, where or maybe it's just any organization, if you seem competent, you get more work, you are given more responsibilities, and not necessarily acknowledged for those responsibilities that you are producing or responding to. There's a lack of good management in my experience. In my time in animal welfare, I've probably had one really great manager, and the rest were mediocre / terrible. So there's also a general lack of focus on the humans. I think that's a big problem in animal welfare, where people come to work in this field because they love animals, and they say, I love animals, humans are the worst. And it's actually not a good place to be in, because there's always a human attached to an animal, whether you like it or not. And you have to be able to communicate clearly and be compassionate towards the humans as well. And I think that's why all this community work that Christina Ha and Dr. Park are talking about are so important. So I think there's just a lot of general issues, and I think many of those issues are amplified for BIPOC staff. So again, just the tip of the iceberg, and I don't think we have enough time to go further into details.
I think that was a great message to close with. Just overall, thank you all for your time and sharing your expertise with us today. Thank you everyone for joining us in celebration of diverse paths in the animal sector. Dr. Park, Christina Lee, Christina Ha, again, we really appreciate your voices today. And thank you, Nadia, for being a wonderful host.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.